My phone buzzes at 1:42 in the morning. The name on the screen makes my blood freeze. Michael. The man who walked out on me and our daughter 15 years ago. My finger hovers over the screen. I should ignore it, block the number, pretend this moment never happened. Instead, I answer. Hello? His voice cracks through the speaker. He's crying. Actually crying. Amanda, God, Amanda, I'm so sorry. I know I have no right to call you. I know what I did was unforgivable. My chest tightens. 15 years of silence, and now this? I shouldn't have left, he continues, his words tumbling out fast and desperate. I was weak. I was scared. I made the biggest mistake of my life, and now I need you. I need your help. The line goes quiet except for his ragged breathing. Michael, I say slowly, why are you calling me? Because you're the only person who can help me now. Please, Amanda, I'm begging you. I have nowhere else to turn. Then he hangs up. I stare at my phone, hands shaking. What the hell just happened? His call explodes, a memory I've kept buried for 15 years. I see him standing in our apartment doorway, brown suitcase in his hand, refusing to look at our 3-year-old daughter, rocking on the living room floor. I can't do this anymore, Amanda, he said that day, his voice flat and emotionless. I can't live like this. Our daughter, Emma, was having a meltdown. She'd been crying for 2 hours straight. The autism diagnosis was still fresh, still terrifying. We were both exhausted, both overwhelmed, but I was trying. I was fighting for her every single day. She's our child, I whispered, not wanting Emma to hear us arguing. He finally looked at me, his eyes cold. She's too much, Amanda. This whole situation is too much. I never signed up for this. Neither did I, but we don't abandon our family. He shook his head. I'm done. And then he left, just like that. No kiss goodbye. No promise to call, no explanation to Emma about why Daddy wasn't coming home anymore. The door clicked shut and I sat on the floor holding our daughter while my entire world collapsed around me. My name is Amanda Brooks. I was 29 years old when I became a single mother overnight, not because my husband died or got sick or had some tragic accident. No, Michael chose to leave. He chose his freedom over his family. He chose escape over responsibility. And that night he walked out wasn't even the hardest part. The years that followed were. I had no idea how to raise an autistic child alone. I had no idea how to pay rent, buy groceries, and cover therapy appointments on one salary. I had no idea how to explain to a 3-year-old why Daddy disappeared. But I learned. Day by day, mistake by mistake, I figured it out. The woman Michael left behind was scared, overwhelmed, and completely unprepared for what lay ahead. The woman answering his desperate phone call 15 years later? She's someone completely different. I built a life he couldn't destroy. I raised a daughter he thought was impossible. I became strong in ways he'll never understand. And now, somehow, he needs me. The irony would be funny if it wasn't so pathetic. Let me take you back to the beginning. The doctor's office where everything changed. Emma was 2.5. She wasn't talking yet, barely made eye contact, had intense reactions to sounds and textures that seemed normal to everyone else. I knew something was different. Michael insisted she was just a late bloomer. The pediatrician's office smelled like disinfectant and fear. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Dr. Williams explained the test results. Autism spectrum disorder. Significant support needs. Therapy recommendations. Early intervention programs. I asked 1,000 questions, taking notes, trying to understand what this meant for Emma's future. Michael stared at the floor the entire time. On the drive home he was silent, completely silent. I tried to start a conversation about therapy options, about schools, about what our next steps should be. Nothing. That silence became his strategy for everything. Doctor appointments, meltdowns, sleepless nights when Emma couldn't settle down. He checked out emotionally long before he physically walked away. I should have seen the abandonment coming. The signs were all there, but I was too busy trying to save our family to notice he'd already given up. 3 days after Michael left, his mother called me. Amanda, dear, she said in that fake sweet voice she used when she wanted something. We've been talking as a family, and we think you should consider other options for Emma. What kind of options? Well, there are facilities, places that specialize in children with her condition. Places where she might be happier. My hands clenched around the phone. You want me to put my daughter in an institution? We want what's best for everyone. Michael has a right to a normal life. You both do. Sometimes love means letting go. I hung up. That's when I realized I hadn't just lost a husband. I'd lost his entire family, the grandparents who were supposed to love Emma unconditionally. The aunts and uncles who should have supported us through the hardest time of our lives. They all chose Michael's version of events. They all believed Emma was too much trouble, too much work, too different. His sister called next, offering similar advice. Then his brother. One by one, they made it clear. If I wanted their support, I needed to make better choices about Emma's care. I stopped answering their calls. The isolation was suffocating. Friends stopped inviting us places because Emma's meltdowns made them uncomfortable. Playdates disappeared. Birthday parties became sources of anxiety instead of joy. My job at the marketing firm became impossible to maintain. Emma's therapy appointments were during business hours. Her meltdowns were unpredictable. My boss was understanding for about 3 months, then the subtle hints started. Maybe you need to reassess your priorities. We need someone who can be fully present. I was let go 6 months after Michael left. The unemployment benefits barely covered rent. I took night jobs cleaning offices while Emma slept, came home exhausted, then spent days navigating therapy appointments and behavioral interventions. Some evenings, after Emma finally fell asleep, I would sit in my car in our apartment complex parking lot and just cry. Not because I felt sorry for myself, but because I felt so incredibly alone. The world wasn't designed for single mothers raising special needs children. Every system seemed to work against us. Every door felt harder to open. But giving up wasn't an option. Emma needed me to be stronger than my circumstances. So I became someone I didn't recognize. Someone tougher. Someone who didn't take no for an answer. 2 years after he left, I ran into Michael's college roommate at the grocery store. "Oh my God, Amanda, how are you? How's Emma?" I gave him the polite update. Emma was doing well in therapy. We were managing fine. That's great to hear, and Michael seems to be doing really well too. Last I heard, he got that promotion in Denver. New job, new apartment, really starting fresh, you know? It's good to see him moving forward without all that baggage. Baggage. He called my daughter baggage. I finished my shopping in a fog, drove home, and sat in my driveway for 20 minutes processing that word. Michael wasn't struggling. He wasn't haunted by what he'd done. He wasn't losing sleep wondering about the daughter he abandoned. He was thriving. He'd rewritten our story completely. In his version, leaving us wasn't abandonment, it was liberation. Emma wasn't his daughter with autism, she was baggage he'd been smart enough to shed. That night, I made a decision. I stopped waiting for him to feel guilty. I stopped hoping he'd come back with apologies and explanations. I accepted that the man I'd married never really existed. And I started building a life that didn't include space for his return. The next few years blurred together in a rhythm of survival and small victories. I found a new job, working customer service from home. The pay was terrible, but I could work around Emma's schedule. I learned to budget like a mathematician, stretching every dollar until it screamed. Emma started making progress in therapy, tiny steps that felt like giant leaps. Eye contact during conversations, using words instead of screaming when frustrated. Playing with other children for short periods without becoming overwhelmed. I became an expert on autism research, insurance appeals, special education law. I learned to advocate fiercely for Emma's needs. I learned to speak up in meetings where professionals underestimated her potential. Slowly, something changed inside me. The scared, overwhelmed woman Michael left behind was disappearing. In her place was someone harder, more focused, less willing to accept other people's limitations. When Emma's first-grade teacher suggested she might never be able to handle a regular classroom, I fought back. When the insurance company denied coverage for her therapy, I filed appeals until they gave in. When relatives made comments about Emma's behavior at family gatherings, I corrected them firmly. I wasn't angry all the time, but I wasn't soft anymore either. I was becoming someone Michael wouldn't recognize. Emma was 8 when she had her breakthrough moment. We were at a parent-teacher conference. Mrs. Patterson, her new teacher, was explaining why Emma would need to be moved to a different classroom setting. "She's very sweet," Mrs. Patterson said, "but let's be realistic about her limitations. Children like Emma need modified expectations. Something inside me snapped. Children like Emma? I said, my voice steady but sharp. What exactly do you mean by that? Mrs. Patterson looked uncomfortable. Well, special needs children. We have to be practical about what they can achieve. My daughter is brilliant, I said, leaning forward. She reads at a 4th grade level. She can solve math problems that stump kids twice her age. Just because she processes the world differently doesn't mean she's limited. Mrs. Brooks, I understand you want what's best for Emma. But, no, I interrupted. You understand that I won't let you underestimate my child. Emma stays in the regular classroom with appropriate supports, and if you can't provide those supports, I'll find someone who can. Mrs. Patterson blinked, clearly not used to being challenged. For the first time, I realized I wasn't the same woman people could talk over anymore. I had found my voice. 10 years passed, then 12, then 15. Emma grew into an amazing kid. Still autistic, still facing daily challenges, but incredible in ways that took my breath away. She had encyclopedic knowledge about marine biology. She could draw detailed pictures of ocean creatures from memory. She made friends with other kids who appreciated her quirky sense of humor. I found my rhythm too. A better job with a company that valued work-life balance. A small house with a yard where Emma could garden. A circle of friends who understood our lives and never made us feel like burdens. I stopped checking Michael's social media. I stopped wondering what he was doing or whether he ever thought about us. His absence became so normal that his presence would have felt strange. Emma asked about him sometimes when she was younger. Why doesn't Daddy live with us? I always told her the truth. Some people aren't ready to be parents. That's not your fault. That's their choice. She stopped asking by the time she turned 10. We built a life that was complete without him, full of routine and joy and purpose. We volunteered at the animal shelter. We took weekend trips to science museums. We had pizza and movie nights every Friday. I thought the chapter with Michael was permanently closed. I was wrong. The first call came on a Tuesday night at 11:47 p.m. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. I deleted it without listening. The second call came 3 days later. Same thing. Voicemail deleted. By the 4th call, curiosity got the better of me. I listened to his message. Amanda, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I have no right to contact you. But I'm in trouble. Real trouble. And I think I made a terrible mistake 15 years ago. Please call me back. Please. His voice sounded different. Older. Desperate. I didn't call back. The calls kept coming. Always late at night, always filled with the same mixture of regret and urgency. He mentioned health scares, financial problems, legal issues he couldn't explain over voicemail. But underneath the panic, I heard something else, something that made my skin crawl. He wasn't calling because he missed us. He was calling because he needed something only I could provide. This wasn't about reconciliation. This was about convenience. I let every call go to voicemail. I didn't listen to most of them. Through mutual acquaintances, pieces of Michael's story started reaching me. The job in Denver hadn't worked out. Neither had the one after that. Or the one after that. Turns out, the man who couldn't handle commitment in his personal life struggled with it professionally too. His second marriage fell apart after 3 years. No children, thankfully. His ex-wife cited his inability to handle stress and his tendency to disappear when things got difficult. There were health problems, financial problems, legal problems from a business deal that went wrong. The golden life he'd built after abandoning us was crumbling piece by piece. And suddenly, after 15 years of silence, he remembered he had a family. The irony was almost funny. The man who left because our life was too much was now facing consequences he couldn't handle alone. The man who chose freedom over responsibility was drowning in both. He'd spent 15 years running from everything difficult. Now difficulty had caught up with him, and he had no idea how to cope. Meanwhile, I'd spent 15 years learning exactly how to cope with anything life threw at me. The cosmic justice was beautiful. He finally managed to reach me directly on a Sunday morning while Emma was at her friend's house. Amanda, he said before I could hang up. Please don't hang up. I know I don't deserve your time, but I'm desperate. What do you want, Michael? I need help. His voice broke. I need money. A lot of money. I'm facing a lawsuit that could destroy me. My lawyer says if I don't settle out of court, I could lose everything. And you think that's my problem because we were married. Because you're the only person who... We're married, I interrupted. Past tense. You made that choice 15 years ago. I know I screwed up. I was young and scared and I handled everything wrong, but I'm trying to make things right now. I almost laughed. Make things right? By asking for money? That's your idea of making amends? I thought maybe we could reconnect, as a family. I want to be part of Emma's life again. No. The word came out sharp and final. Amanda, please. The answer is no, Michael, to all of it. The money, the reconciliation, the family reunion. No. For the first time in our entire conversation, he was silent. You can't be serious, he said finally. I'm completely serious. I'm her father. No, I said calmly. You're the man who donated genetic material 15 years ago. Fathers don't abandon their children because parenting gets difficult. I made a mistake. You made a choice. A deliberate, calculated choice to prioritize your comfort over your daughter's well-being. And now you want to undo that choice because it's convenient for you. That's not fair. Fair? I felt a laugh building in my chest. You want to talk about fair? Was it fair when I worked 3 jobs to pay for Emma's therapy while you were building your new life in Denver? Was it fair when I sat through every doctor's appointment, every school meeting, every crisis alone while you pretended we didn't exist? His breathing was heavy on the other end of the line. I've changed, Amanda. I'm different now. So am I said. I'm different in ways you can't imagine. I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm not the woman you left behind, and I'm certainly not going to rescue the man who destroyed my family. This isn't just about me. This affects Emma too. Don't. My voice went ice cold. Don't you dare use my daughter to manipulate me. You gave up the right to care about what affects Emma the day you walked out our door. He tried a different approach. Look, I know you hate me. I understand that. But family is family, right? We have history together. We created something beautiful together. We created Emma together, I corrected. Then you abandoned her. That's our history. I was overwhelmed. I was young. I didn't know how to handle her diagnosis. I was the same age, Michael. I was just as overwhelmed, but I stayed. I know, and I admire that. I admire how strong you became. Don't patronize me. I'm not. I'm trying to explain that I realize now what I lost, what I threw away. This lawsuit, these problems I'm facing, they made me realize that none of it matters if you don't have family to support you. You had a family. You chose to throw it away. I want to fix that. You can't fix 15 years of absence with a phone call, Michael. You can't undo the damage you caused by suddenly deciding you need us again. There was a long pause. So you're going to let me lose everything? After 15 years, you're going to hold a grudge? I'm not holding a grudge. I'm maintaining boundaries. There's a difference. What if I said I was sorry? Really, truly sorry. Then I'd say you're 15 years too late. How is she? He asked suddenly. Emma, how is she doing? I should have hung up, should have ended the conversation the moment he tried to shift tactics, but something in his voice sounded genuinely curious. She's amazing. Really? She's managing okay with her condition? Condition, like autism was something temporary she might recover from. She's not managing her condition, Michael. She's thriving as an autistic person. She's brilliant and funny and creative and kind. She has friends and hobbies and dreams for her future. That's wonderful. I always hoped she would be able to live independently someday. There it was, the question he really wanted to ask. Independent enough to take care of herself without needing support from anyone else? I asked. Well, yes. I mean, that would be ideal, right? Michael, she's 15 years old. Most 15-year-olds aren't completely independent. But Emma is more capable than you ever imagined she could be, precisely because I never accepted other people's low expectations. So she's high-functioning then. I don't use that language. It's offensive and inaccurate. Oh, I didn't know. Of course he didn't know. He'd never bothered to learn anything about autism after Emma's diagnosis. He'd never bothered to learn anything about Emma, period. Why are you asking about her? Because she's my daughter. Now she is. Convenient timing. I hung up. Emma came home from her friend's house an hour later, full of excitement about their science project and the movie they'd watched. Mom, did you know that octopuses have 3 hearts? She said, settling into her favorite chair with a book about marine biology. I did not know that. Tell me more. She launched into a detailed explanation of octopus anatomy while I made dinner. Her enthusiasm was infectious, her knowledge encyclopedic. She was so much more than the scared, overwhelmed little girl Michael had walked away from. Watching her, I felt a familiar surge of pride mixed with protectiveness. This incredible person had flourished despite his absence, not because of it. She'd grown up knowing she was loved unconditionally by the parent who stayed. That evening, as we did homework together at the kitchen table, Emma looked up suddenly. Mom, was that Dad on the phone earlier? I froze. What makes you ask that? I heard you say Michael when I came in, and you seemed upset. I'd thought she was too distracted to notice. Yes, I said carefully. He called. What did he want? To talk, to reconnect, he said. Emma processed this for a moment, twirling her pencil between her fingers. Do you want to reconnect with him? No, do you? She shrugged. I don't really remember him, and you and I are pretty good on our own, aren't we? We are definitely good on our own. Then why would we need him now? Out of the mouths of babes. 2 days later, Michael showed up at my office. I was in the middle of a client call when my assistant knocked on my door. There's a man here to see you, she whispered. Says he's your ex-husband. My stomach dropped. Tell him I'm unavailable. He says he'll wait. Then tell him I'm unavailable for the rest of the day. And tomorrow, and indefinitely. But when I left work at 6 o'clock, he was sitting on the bench outside the building. 15 years had not been kind to Michael. He was heavier, grayer, with deep lines around his eyes that spoke of stress and poor decisions. He looked exactly like what he was, a man whose chickens had finally come home to roost. Hello, Amanda. I kept walking toward my car. He fell into step beside me. I know you don't want to see me. I know showing up like this crosses a line, but I'm running out of options. That's not my problem. It could be our opportunity to heal as a family, to give Emma the father she deserves. I stopped walking and turned to face him. Emma already has the parent she deserves, the one who stayed, the one who fought for her every single day, the one who never gave up on her. You're right. You're absolutely right, and I want to be that parent too. I want to make up for lost time. There is no making up for lost time, Michael. Time isn't a bank account. You can't make deposits to cover past withdrawals. His composure started to crack. What do you want from me? I said I was sorry. I admitted I was wrong. What more can I do? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. That's the point. I got in my car and drove away, leaving him standing in the parking lot. That weekend, the calls started coming from his family. First, his mother. Amanda, dear, I know Michael made mistakes, but family forgives. Maybe it's time to let bygones be bygones. Then his sister. He's really struggling, Amanda. I think he's learned his lesson. Can't you find it in your heart to help him? Then his brother. Look, I know things ended badly between you two, but the guy is desperate. He needs help, and you're the only one who can provide it. 15 years of radio silence from these people, and suddenly they all had my phone number. I answered his mother's third call. Mrs. Patterson, I said, where were you 15 years ago when I needed help? Where were any of you when I was raising your granddaughter alone, working multiple jobs, fighting insurance companies for therapy coverage? Well, that was a difficult situation for everyone. No, it was a difficult situation for me. It was a choice for everyone else. You all chose Michael's comfort over Emma's well-being. You all chose to believe that she was better off without a father than dealing with his emotional immaturity. We were trying to respect Michael's decision. You were enabling his abandonment, and now that his life is falling apart, you want me to enable his manipulation. The answer is no. Amanda, please. He's our son. And Emma is your granddaughter, but you've never once called to ask about her. I hung up and blocked all their numbers. A week later, I learned from a former colleague that Michael's situation was worse than I'd realized. He was facing a lawsuit for breach of contract from a business deal gone wrong. He'd apparently promised investors returns he couldn't deliver, using company funds for personal expenses. If he lost the case, he'd owe over $200,000 in damages. His house was in foreclosure. His credit was destroyed, His reputation in the industry was ruined. The golden boy who'd walked away from responsibility to build a better life had systematically destroyed every opportunity he'd been given. Meanwhile, Emma was thriving in high school. She'd been accepted into an advanced marine biology program. She volunteered at the aquarium every weekend. She had a small but tight circle of friends who appreciated her unique perspective on the world. She was everything Michael had convinced himself she could never be. Independent, confident, academically successful, socially connected. The daughter he'd written off as too much was excelling in ways he'd never imagined possible. And the wife he'd abandoned as weak and overwhelmed had built a life he could never touch. The man who'd chosen the easy path was facing consequences he couldn't escape. The woman who'd chosen the hard path was reaping rewards he couldn't understand. I stopped answering Michael's calls entirely. Not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. My energy belonged to the life I'd built, not the wreckage he'd created. Emma was applying to colleges. We were visiting campuses, meeting with advisors, planning her future. She wanted to study marine biology and autism research, hoping to bridge the gap between scientific understanding and real-world application. My career was flourishing. I'd been promoted to senior manager, leading a team of customer service representatives. I'd learned to be firm without being harsh, direct without being cruel. On weekends, Emma and I took long walks in the park, discussing everything from her latest research projects to her plans for changing the world. She had inherited my determination, but tempered it with an optimism I sometimes envied. This was our life, complete, purposeful, joyful. There was no room in it for a man who'd spent 15 years proving he didn't want to be part of it. When his calls stopped coming, I felt only relief. For the first time in months, I slept through the night without flinching at every notification sound. The past no longer had access to me. I woke up refreshed, made coffee, read the news while Emma got ready for school. We talked about her upcoming science fair project and her plans for the weekend. Normal mother-daughter conversation about a life we'd built together. At work, I focused on my team, my projects, my goals. I had a career I was proud of, colleagues who respected my expertise, a future I was excited about. In the evening, Emma and I cooked dinner together, discussing her college applications and her hopes for the future. She was becoming such an incredible young woman. Thoughtful, passionate, determined to make a difference in the world. This was peace. This was what life looked like when you stopped waiting for other people's approval and started building your own happiness. Michael's crisis was no longer my emergency. His regret was no longer my responsibility. I'd spent 15 years learning to thrive without him. I wasn't about to forget that lesson now. 6 months later, I learned through a mutual acquaintance that Michael had lost the lawsuit. He'd been ordered to pay full damages plus legal fees. His house had been sold to cover part of the debt. He'd filed for bankruptcy and moved back in with his parents in his hometown. The man who'd been too proud to handle his daughter's autism diagnosis was now living in his childhood bedroom, financially ruined and professionally destroyed. I felt no satisfaction in his downfall. No vindictive joy at his suffering. I felt nothing at all. His consequences were his own. His choices had led him exactly where he belonged. Meanwhile, Emma had been accepted into her dream college with a partial scholarship for academic excellence. She was planning to double major in marine biology and psychology, with the goal of developing better therapeutic approaches for autistic individuals. The daughter he'd abandoned because she was too much was going to spend her life helping other people like her succeed. She was going to make the world better for the very population he'd wanted to escape from. The irony was beautiful, but I was too busy being proud to fully appreciate it. At Emma's high school graduation, I watched her receive the award for outstanding achievement in science. She walked across that stage with confidence and grace, shaking hands with the principal, smiling for photos, completely comfortable in her own skin. In her valedictorian speech, she talked about overcoming challenges, finding your unique strengths, and refusing to let other people's limitations define your potential. Some people will tell you that being different means being less than, she said, looking out at the audience. But different often means better. It means seeing the world in ways that lead to innovation, creativity, and breakthrough discoveries. She never mentioned her father's absence. She never talked about being raised by a single mother. She never presented herself as overcoming anything. Instead, she presented herself as someone who'd always been exactly who she was meant to be. Watching her, I realized that the greatest victory wasn't proving Michael wrong about Emma's potential. The greatest victory was raising a daughter who didn't need his validation to know her worth. Emma succeeded not to spite the father who left, but because she'd been loved unconditionally by the parent who stayed. Looking back now, I can see exactly how I transformed from the scared young mother Michael abandoned into the confident woman who refused his desperate pleas for help. He wanted escape from responsibility. I built a life around embracing it. He chose the path of least resistance. I chose the path that led somewhere meaningful. He ran from difficulty. I learned to thrive within it. The woman he left was weak, overwhelmed, and dependent on his approval. The woman he called 15 years later was strong, self-sufficient, and completely indifferent to his opinion. Emma starts college in the fall. She's already talking about graduate school, about research opportunities, about the changes she wants to make in her field. She has inherited my determination and developed her own unique wisdom. Michael lost everything he thought mattered: money, status, reputation, control. I gained everything that actually matters: strength, purpose, unshakable love, and a daughter who will change the world. His story ends in failure and regret. Mine is just beginning. For the first time in this entire saga, the story ends on my terms. And that makes all the difference.